Hey there, thanks for clicking this video. My name is Anthony Romano, and today I want to ask you, if you watch Joe Rogan, why the fuck haven't you started doing keto already? So, a lot of people will talk about Joe Rogan if they want to start talking about the keto diet. And for me, I've been doing keto for 7 years, and I've watched Joe Rogan for probably almost as much time, really. So I've watched a lot of his stuff here and there, a lot of the old half-baked type of stuff, and I really liked getting into it when he started talking more about this nutrition side of things. And I have a video on Joe Rogan's variation of keto. You can watch that video if you'd like to see what he actually eats and what his structure is like, and some insights from it. But for this video, I'm going to tell you about some of the benefits. Basically, I'm not going to just saturate this video with a bunch of Joe Rogan highlights because I'm trying to get views. All right, I am trying to get views, but I'm going to tell you the reasons why. Because a lot of people like to harp on the keto diet, but nowadays we're starting to realize that it actually has a lot of benefits, especially performance-wise. And this is why it's getting harder for people to criticize it, because there's more science being built on it. And then when you have people like Joe Rogan, who are these role models for people, especially performance-wise. Lots of MMA people look up to him. Lots of MMA people watch his podcast, listen to his insights. And when you have people like Joe Rogan being a figurehead for this diet, especially for like years, it really makes you start to think, okay, maybe there is something to this. Okay, and I'm going to explain some of those benefits to you, because you can greatly benefit from listening to more of Joe Rogan's opinion, but also you can benefit by looking at more keto information, especially the ones I'm giving you, because I have much more experience than most people on YouTube, and the internet. So with keto adaptation, okay, that's the biggest benefit. It's the biggest change, and it really affects your metabolism. Okay, that's the biggest benefit, the fat adaptation. I have videos on this. But with Joe Rogan, okay, I'm going to give a little bit of context here. Joe Rogan's talked about on his podcast with Brendan Schaub. He's talked about with Dominic D'Agostino, Rhonda Patrick, some Dr. Galpin, some other people. Okay, there's lots of people he's talked to about this ketogenic diet. Dave Asprey, lots of people, and I've listened to almost all those podcasts over the years. There's plenty of people, and those are just off the top of my head, that he's talked about this diet with, and he's explained the benefits of it. And some people almost view, I feel like most of the people I know that watch Joe Rogan are like, oh yeah, like all that keto stuff, whatever. Like they kind of, you hear it, but it's like it's not getting into your head. It's like, why? If you haven't started already, just think about that. If you've heard him talk about it enough times where it's kind of internalized for you. Because I know plenty of people, especially MMA guys, and they're like, oh yeah, you could just cut with, you could still eat your oats and stuff, and, just get enough protein. It's like, dude, there's a completely different metabolic change going on here, okay? The keto metabolism it's not reliant on carbohydrates. It uses carbs more effectively. It doesn't use them as wastefully as the carb metabolism does, especially for somebody who's not in the peak lean shape, because the more lean you are, the more sensitive the more it's likely that you're sensitive to insulin, and insulin carries nutrients to your muscles. Insulin also is responsible for you storing fat, and if you eat large amounts of carbs, you're more resistant to insulin. Doing a keto diet improves that resistance, so even down the line, when you start eating carbs again, your body's going to be using them much more effectively. In addition to the fact that you're using fat more effectively, because if there's one thing science knows, it's that people who are on keto use fat more effectively, which oftentimes people will discredit keto by saying, oh, all that matters is the calorie change, right? All that matters is whether or not your calories are where you at, and then you'll burn fat just as quickly. You'll lose as many pounds. But listen, science nowadays is going towards the fact that, yes, calories are the primary driver of fat loss, the total energy you're giving. But how effective your body is with its energy is it's too vague to describe that with calorie counting. With insulin sensitivity in your body, example, if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, and somebody who's your clone eats 2,000 calories a day of all sugar, you're going to have a much better time in your diet. And that person's going to be hungrier, they're going to be less sensitive to insulin, they're going to be performing weaker, and they're not going to be burning fat as effectively. So even with that little example right there, that's not even scratching the surface of the keto metabolism, because of the studies that are out on fat adapted keto metabolism, which are scarce, there's only some on people who aren't adapted, okay? And it takes around a month at minimum to get adapted. The ones of people who are adapted show that they not only have more effective and better VO2 maxes, better cardio effects, equal ability to perform, but they have more glucose remaining in their muscles after the exercise. They did one with marathon runners, and endurance activity was equal, if not better performance, and the amount of glucose they had, so carb energy, was better. This is probably why Joe Rogan's able to do MMA stuff and basically wrestle people and roll around the floor with people and have no problems, even when he's eating keto. You can throw in carbs at whenever you want, because this is the optimal human metabolism. The reason I'm saying this is because if you think about nature, humans would be eating carbs every now and then. We have hundreds and thousands of years of evolution of basically humans eating fatty animal meat, right? Organs, vegetables when they're available, and fruits when they're available, and various grain products when they're available. The massive farming and mass production of these carb sources was only for the last couple hundred years. And any sort of starchy carb was not something people would be pounding back like we do nowadays. You know, they wouldn't be having bowls and bowls of pasta every day because it was just hard to produce. And the human metabolism was made to use carbs as a luxury energy source. It was made to have carbs basically as a quick burning energy source. And that's why we get such a high dopamine spike when we eat it, because it's our body saying, yo, our body only cares about survival. And it goes, dude, listen, this stuff you just ate, we can store it. This is really good energy, really quick burning energy. We can store this for later, so keep eating more of it. That's what your body, that's why it tastes so good to eat sugar, because it's a quick energy source. And your body wants you to eat more energy so you can store it so you don't die. Okay? And the human metabolism was made to not be in a carb state and then burn slight amounts of fat like most of the macro diets are nowadays. They're actually meant to be in the fat adapted metabolism and then take in carbs as the luxury here and there. That is the whole purpose of it. And that's where you're going to get better performance if you have a fat metabolism in place. And from there, yeah, if you want to have some carbs before your exercise, go for it, and your body's going to use it more effectively. Then have this, it's going to be ready in the mode to start burning fat. When you're doing a carb diet, okay, and you do something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like Joe Rogan does, after you tap out your glycogen stores, your body doesn't have much of a good ability to start using fat. It's not like you're just going to hop into ketosis and start doing that when you're on a carb metabolism. No, the only time you're going to do that is if you're on a fat metabolism. If you're already in keto and then you give yourself carbs, you use up those, and after you've tapped out your glycogen stores, after 30 to 45 minutes at most of exercise, that's when your body has the reserve tank. It's not even a reserve tank, it's just the default tank, okay? So that's the longevity tank. It's a slower burning energy source. And that's also why it keeps you fuller. Okay, there's also this distinction with, everybody knows that fat has 9 calories per gram and carbs have 4. So when it comes to what's a better quality gasoline, it's the one with more energy per liter. Same thing with fat. It's a higher octane fuel. And even though it's slower burning, you get more bang for your buck, more than double bang for your buck than every gram of carb. And that's why it requires you to eat less of it to get more energy benefits. It's also easier for your brain to use. Your brain is made of almost entirely fat. And of that, 30 to 40% of it is EPA DHA, which is omega-3 essential fatty acids. So even performance-wise, your brain would prefer it if you give it fat as energy. How clearly am I speaking in this video? How smoothly am I progressing my thoughts? The forgetting and not recalling the words you want to use in a sentence is not something that humans should be doing. It's a characteristic of people who have not something wrong with them, but something which isn't exactly right. So, again, that's anecdotal, okay? When it comes to your brain definitely prefers fat as fuel. It can create its own carbs. This is called gluconeogenesis. You might have heard of this, and if you're somebody who's in the keto realm, you might be afraid of gluconeogenesis because you think it's going to make your body use its own protein. Gluconeogenesis is your body's production of carbs through extra protein, not necessarily through your body's protein. And your body needs a certain amount of carbs every day, but it can make those very easily. And when you're fat adapted, so there's actually one discussion on Joe Rogan's page where I commented because he was talking to Dr. Galpin, and Dr. Galpin was saying that ketosis is a state where you're in systemic energy, so you have fat going through your blood, but you don't have glycogen stores, is what he's saying. But that's actually highly incorrect, and I left a comment on that because Dr. Galpin isn't an expert on keto, but he's an expert on other things, and I just wanted to put that in there. I'm not trying to say I know more than this guy, but as far as it comes to keto and performance, I do. With glycogen, your body, after becoming adapted, gets better at using glycogen because it starts storing glycogen. You want a healthy amount of gluconeogenesis. That basically means that your body is going to be burning fat all day long, and the extra protein or extra carbs you're eating through greens is going to immediately go to your muscles. Every kind of different carb gets processed differently in your body and goes to different places. Glucose generally goes into your muscles. If it's fructose, which is fruit sugar, it'll go to your liver, which is kind of like your reserve tank of carbs. But we can store way more fat than we can store carbs in our body. That's why we store fat. It's our optimal energy source. That's why our bodies can be full of it, because it's in at times of scarcity, it is a much more effective energy source than having carbs and the volatility of your energy spikes. So I'm not trying to say necessarily you have to do this. I'm just saying that if you're somebody who's watched Joe Rogan and you've never really batted an eye at why he does this keto diet, here's some insight why. Performance-wise, my purpose of my channel is to build up why this is such an effective diet. When I'm cutting, I have a video called I Got Fat on Purpose to prove that I can lose it all in 4 months. And I did. I lost 37 pounds in 4 months effortlessly. I wasn't killing myself on treadmill every day. I was just living my life and eating keto and, in general, keeping count of my calories. Being aware of it, being mindful. And that's also why I created my Keto Transformation Challenge, which you can find the links to the free entry and the prize opportunities in the description. Also, I made some free training plans and meal plans to make it even easier to do that. I have a small page. You have a very good chance of winning, so enter it. With Joe Rogan's performance benefits and any performance benefit of keto, I'm cutting. I did my 37-pound fat loss, and my strength is going up or staying the same. Every single lift isn't up, but most of them are the exact same, and plenty of them are up. My weighted pull-ups, my weighted dips, they're up 20, 30 pounds. My bench press gained 6 reps per my previous 1 rep max. There's a lot of things that your body is able to do very effectively when it's using fat, even when the total energy is lower. Okay, so I was saying before this distinction that every gram of fat is 9 calories and every gram of carbs is 4. And we know that the calories are one of the primary drivers of fat loss. However, think of calories as total energy. And if your total energy is decreased, that's going to create, weight loss, if that's what you want to call it. But of your total energy, if it's of a higher octane fuel, it's almost as if your body's still going to be burning fat. Your insulin's still going to be lower. The fat storage hormones are going to be decreased. But your performance doesn't necessarily have to suffer that way, because of the 2,000 calories you're eating, it's mostly of a higher octane fuel. So that is the big, write that down, okay? If you can find a simple way to explain that, the high fat is a higher octane fuel. Write that down. Okay, so even when you're in a calorie deficit, if your calories are coming from fat, you're basically going to be running off of a more efficient fuel. And that's why even when your calories are lower, you're running off of a fuel that's going to allow you to still be able to build strength as you're cutting, still be able to build muscle as you're cutting. That's why a lot of the golden era bodybuilders were all eating fatty meats. There's very few carb sources, especially if you look up, Google golden era bodybuilder, classic bodybuilder meal plan. I guarantee you it's all fatty meats, bunches of eggs, dairy, and protein. That's it. These guys only started using carbs occasionally. Tom Platz would have a oatmeal maybe a little bit before a leg day. That's it, occasionally. And wouldn't even rely on it every single time. That's why these Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, these MMA guys are able to do Joe Rogan's diet and feel fantastic. That's why Joe Rogan does it. Okay? There's a method to the madness. So, hopefully, this gave you some insight as to why you should do the ketogenic diet, especially if you've seen somebody or heard somebody on a regular basis preach about it. I'd love for you to join my challenge that I'm doing. It's free. Completely free. And I give you the plans. You don't got to sign up for a newsletter, nothing like that. But the whole point, I want to just enlighten people's lives to this diet and the benefits it has in their lifestyle and performance, especially for somebody who's interested in bodybuilding and fitness. So, as a result of that, I really hope that you click subscribe, you click the little notification bell, and ask me a question in the comments. I will get back to you. I get back to every single person, even if they're chirping me. Okay? So, in general, thank you for watching this video. Take it and run with it. That's it. My name is Anthony Romano. Thanks for watching. Peace.